to everybody. Glad to have you on board today for a conversation about step families. I'm Greg, and this is Priscilla Hunt. We've been married for 46 years. We are committed to lifelong love and ongoing growth and development in relationship. And in that regard, we are relationship coaches and conference presenters. We've done a lot of resource development. The most significant right now would be the Close Companions Online Relationship Academy, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. It's an offshoot of Better Marriages, which is one of the pioneering relationship education organizations. And it's our privilege in that role to engage in this conversation today with Gil and Brenda Stewart. You want to say a little bit more about our guests?
So welcome, Gil and Brenda.
Thank you. Hi.
You're probably going to be using this too. So we're your guests too. We'll just be guests.
It's a conversation,
Yes.
not an interview. So I've known Gil and Brenda for probably over 20 years and have had a little bit more relationship with them in more recent years. But Gil and Brenda are internationally recognized as experts in step families, and they're going to share their story with you in a minute to tell you why they are. They're authors, counselors, coaches, development of curriculi, and co-creators of 2 courses in the Close Companions Online Relationship Academy, and just returned about 2 weeks ago from Vietnam. So take it away, Gil and Brenda. We want to know more about you. Tell us your story.
Wow. Thank you so much. I think it's our honor to sit and chat with you guys about all that you have got going as you serve marriages around the country and the world as well. That's a great encouragement to us to co-labor. Brenda and I are I appreciate your comment as experts, but I always choke on that a little bit because we're still learning. And always. And in our step family journey, we have 7 children between the 2 of us. I had 4, Brenda had 3, and we now have how many grandchildren?
9.4 grandchildren. One's in the oven.
So if you could say, Brenda, what you think maybe doesn't qualify us, but what continues to help teach us on what we share with couples.
Well, I think once you're in a step family, I say it's the gift that keeps on giving, because there's always circumstances and always opportunities to forgive. So my first marriage was 19 years. Gil's was 24. Both really involved in our local churches, not thinking that divorce would be ever an option in our life, because we are totally 100% sold out for marriage. Once you're married for the rest of your life. And that's why, because of our pain and our story, we are so passionate about supporting marriage. But with that said, there's more and more of us that are ending up on that side of, divorce or getting remarried because of either divorce or if a spouse has passed away. And it's not anything any of us, I think, ever really wanted. The one thing we have in common being remarried is we all enter through the doorway of pain, which is, like I said, either through divorce or death. So, so when we first started, when we were married almost 20 years ago, there weren't a lot of resources out there. So we actually flew on a plane and went to see Ron Deal from Smart Step Family to learn, right? And then through the years, Gil is an incredible wordsmith. So we would come up with terms and stuff that really help bring health to our marriage, bring our defenses down, and help relate to the kids. And the more we shared that, it turned into a seminar we did, and then we wrote a book and a workbook and a video series and on and on.
It kind of evolved. Yeah. I think if anything, to reframe the concept of expert, we like to refer to it as dirt under the fingernails. It's kind of like getting down into the grimy stuff. And as a counselor and coach, we've worked with couples around the country, and in some cases, people and couples that we've encountered internationally around step family topics. And many times the circumstances and stories are different, but the principles of what causes it to be so difficult are very, very much the same. It's a complex family system.
Mhm.
And the more that we can understand that and encourage one another, really has a lot to do.
Yeah.
So,
And there's actually 72 differences between a remarriage and a first marriage. So
Wow.
like a first marriage, like you guys have never had to deal with parenting plans or alimony or
where are the kids going to go for Christmas Eve
Yeah.
or Christmas?
yeah. So
Yeah, we'll talk about in a little
there's a
while.
lot of different moving parts, which are confusing. And then there's also 67 different types of step families. So it's amazing. Through the years, we'll be talking to a couple and then, tell them what we do. And we hear their story and we're like, well, you're a step family. And they're like, no, we're not. It's like, well, you are. It's like, oh, I guess we are.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think part of that, honestly, you guys, especially in the churches, there is just so much shame involved.
Mhm.
Neither of us wanted to get divorced. It was not our choice. And because of that, there's that level of feeling like we failed.
Yeah.
And to be able to work through that is very difficult. And knowing that Jesus loves us no matter what, and that's where our identity is. Our identity is not in our marriage. It's our identity is in Christ.
It's in Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like your term that you used about dirt under the fingernails. For that too is being in the trenches.
Yeah.
We're living it. We're figuring it out as we go. We're growing and learning and changing and, that kind of thing. So,
And I think that's what we are talking about is experience, and there are different ways to have experience. I heard somebody once say, you can have 20 years of experience one time, or you can have 1 year of experience 20 times.
Yeah.
Our hope is for us to learn from our experiences, both the things we get right and the things we get wrong. And so I think as long as we stay humble and realistic about that, wisdom can be one of the benefits of this journey together.
Yeah.
Deepening kind of love.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah.
we want y'all to continue with your story, but while I think about it, I wanted to just ask you about terminology.
Mhm.
So that we're all on the same page about, how do we talk about step families?
Well, that's a great question, Priscilla, because clinically speaking, blended families is a misnomer. They don't really blend. They are step family systems. They will always remain two separate systems. Ideally, you want them to blend, and they do, if you have what's called long haul thinking. It doesn't happen in a couple of weeks. On average, for a blended family, even if you're doing everything right, and there's a lot you can mess up, but even if you're doing everything right, the average time that a blended family can take to really blend and begin to actually have healthy bonds is anywhere between 4 to 7 years. And so, a step family system, now here we are, coming, into our 20th year, and our kids are now in their, I hate to say this out loud, they're in their 30s and their 40s. When we got married, they were, pre-teens, teens, and early 20s. And over the years, the blending process has happened because they love and respect one another. They talk to us as parental figures, not just, oh, that's mom's husband or that's dad's wife. They still kind of refer to that. But the key is that when we come together for family events and this and that, and it's a little farther and further between now because they're adults, but we will see them come together as a close-knit family. But the longer they're in the room together, they will gravitate to one another's clans. On one hand, the Stewart family, on the other hand, the Lowndes family. And then what we find really interesting, as we have seen daughter-in-laws and son-in-laws show up, is that they see the whole family system as one. So it's another dynamic the longer that you're in this. So the step family terminology is accurate clinically. Blended family, I think, comes because of love. And that is the bond, is love, understanding, patience. Stepmom, stepdad, mom, dad, Brenda, Gil. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Just don't call me late for dinner.
So blended families are step families, but not all step families are blended families.
Yeah.
Well, they're intermixable terms.
There's intermixable terms. I mean, there's, we've heard all kinds of things from, nuclear family to, micro family, there's all kinds of stuff, but it's
in some circles, a blended family means different nationality, different races.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mixed marriage, but blended family.
Yeah.
That can happen a lot. We've worked a lot with military families who divorce and remarriage is at an accelerated rate. And so the term blended family sometimes may mean a step family system, or as you said, a mixed marriage. So the terminology, that's a really good question, is when you're interacting with somebody in a step family, is how do you refer to yourself? What does it mean to you? Because in a way that really honors the person and their family system. And that's a beautiful way to start a conversation with a family.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Well, what else do you want to share about your story? And, we see that you all came together from long-term marriages, really, and you brought these children together, and you were brilliant in being proactive to figure out, how do we do this? Going to Ron Deal, that's, I love your intention and proactivity about that. And so you wanted them to help other couples who are in similar situations. What else can you tell us?
I think a lot of the couples we talk with, number one, haven't gotten premarital because they feel like I've been married before, I know how to do this. And that's, like we said, there's 67 different types, right? And also people wait so long to get help. I think the average couple is like 6 years before they reach out to get help. So many times couples that come to us, things they're struggling with are normal. And they don't realize, they think they're special. I mean, they're special, right? Everybody's special. They all get a trophy.
Yeah.
But just for them to hear that this is a normal part of the step family, they can kind of relax and say, okay, this is normal. This is different for us, which it is.
Yeah.
So what tools can we use to navigate this? And that's where our focus is usually the marriage comes first. Because the best gift we can give our kids is a strong marriage, especially in a step family, because they need to see what a healthy marriage looks like, because they may not have seen that in their previous family systems.
Yeah, that's really kind of where the byline from Restored and Remarried come from, which goes, if you ain't got the marriage,
you ain't got nothing.
Because in essence, if you don't have the bond, what we refer to as the middle ground, it is the main bond for the whole system. So if the marriage is not healthy, everyone will suffer. And the tendency is always to focus on the children, which makes sense. So in a lot of ways, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. But if the marriage bond is not strong, the system, it'll tear you up.
Appreciate you saying that. And I was interested to hear you speak to that issue. Speak just a little bit also to the counterpart, which is the impact of what's going on in this more complex family dynamic on your relationship with each other. In other words, the impact of the family on the way your second marriage, how you experience that and what develops between the two of you.
Let's see. Let's start at chapter 1 of our book, Restored and Remarried. I think the key thing here, to your point, as a preamble, is don't waste your pain, because either will teach you or it will cause you to shut down and forget that this is a new relationship. And then therein lies all of the terminology that we bring out in the first few chapters of the book, so as not to confuse my past with the present. because those bad habits or those wounds or those patterns that were in a former relationship are past. They did die, figuratively speaking, because of the death of a divorce, or really speaking of because I'm a widow or a widower. But if I don't understand those things about myself, I'm very much bound to bring them in here and then wonder what's wrong with you when it's really me. And if I don't know how to safely talk about that without mixing up the past and the present, therein lies the seedbed for a lot of conflict and a lot of misunderstanding. And then you mix in 7 kids. Oh boy, what a mess.
Yeah, to be sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, self-awareness is crucial.
Yes, yeah. And when it comes to the parenting piece, very common, and this happened to us all the time, is that we get very protective of our own kids, right? So it's like the mama bear comes out in me if Gil would criticize my kids, and vice versa. And we had to come to a realization that we both want the best for all of our kids. And Gil could see stuff in my kids that I couldn't see because I had a blind eye, right? And once again, vice versa. So I think once we were able to work through that, and that helped a lot, because it lowered our defenses, and we were on the same team. It's like, you're not the enemy.
Oh, my hackles still went up. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, but I was like, hold on a second. No, she's trustworthy. Relax.
But I got to tell you guys, I mean, so as we shared earlier, we are renewing our vows in a couple weeks, and we're so excited. All the kids are going to be there because not all the kids came the first ceremony. And a couple weeks ago, we were talking through the logistics and the details, and I can't remember exactly what happened, something with one of the kids, but it was amazing how the emotion, almost like our first year of marriage, came up again.
Right
it
there.
was like right there.
Yeah.
After 20 years.
Yeah.
And luckily we were able to kind of talk it through. But I mean, that just goes to show you that we're always learning that pain, the grieving process is always still right there. And to acknowledge that. And at least this time, we were on the same page. It wasn't like your kid or my kid. We both agreed that kid was being an issue. So,
Yeah. And we love that kid. I mean,
yeah.
But that kind of gives you a flavor. And I mean, in a first time marriage, there's lots of things there too. After 40 some odd years, there's bumps and bruises that, you have, and how do we navigate them? So there you go.
Yeah.
Do you find ever that there are people who come to you because they see you as recognized figures for supporting step families, who come to you and are hoping that you have some cookie cutter answers to their questions?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's human nature. Greg, is somebody fix this? I don't like this. And there are, as you well know, there are no easy answers, but we can certainly provide, as we call in our podcast, tips, tools, and tingles for your relationship. And there are definitely tips and tools of whoa, hold on a second, you're going the wrong direction. We can provide some consulting in that perspective. But as to the heart of the person, that truly is a matter that they have to take it before the Lord, and there's healing and so forth. But there are some good things that we have learned. I mean, we learn a lot from the couples we work with over these last, 18, 19 years that we've been working with couples. And there are things like, no, don't do that. And I think that's one thing that Ron shared with us years ago is because of our pain and actually in the trenches with the dirt on the fingernails, he had mentioned to us one time, he said, there are things you guys can say that I can't because you're experiencing it. And so that was really affirming for us to come alongside couples when they're saying, fix this. And we're going, oh, actually, you're right on track. What you're experiencing is normal. Don't minimize it. Embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good.
Well, you mentioned tips, tools, and tingles. And I know, we don't have a 3-day seminar available to us, because I know you could fill it with all those tips, tools, and tingles. But can you just share a handful of those that you think are most important for step families?
I think coming into the holidays, any holiday, it's really important to lower your expectations because, and in that, between the couple to be able to share what are our expectations for this holiday season, whether it's any holiday, right?
Yeah.
Not just Christmas or Thanksgiving, but any big event coming up, what birthdays, celebrations, what are our expectations? Because unmet expectations lead to assumptions and miscommunication, and you just miss each other. So sharing the expectations between the couple and the family. I mean, we're constantly saying, okay, what are your expectations? What do you envision happening? Okay, yeah, we could probably do that. Nah, I don't know if that's going to be realistic. So we talk about it. So I think that's one of the biggest things with holidays. What would you say?
Yeah, adding to that, I especially with adult children and when they were younger, there's been a lot of let's just say transition and treating them as adults versus children. But that's a big key thing with step families. And the training that I've had is most of the time that the children feel as though they do not have a voice. That is a really important thing as step parents is the best you can, even though you are the leader of the family or the parents of the family, somehow find a way to allow that child to speak up and, you know, engage a little bit so that they feel as though they have a voice rather than being voluntold, this is what we're going to do. You know, because back to, oh, mom and dad, you know, mom's getting married again, dad's getting married again. Well, who is this person? They are always in a quandary of what's this all about? Help them to, you know, prime them the best you can, but also engage them a little bit with maybe even having a little bit of a say-so in what they want to do. Now, we may already kind of know what we want, but if we can offer them an opportunity to kind of speak up and we kind of look at each other and go, wink, wink, yeah, that was an agreement. Then you go, that's a great idea, Johnny, let's do that. Anything that you can affirm that kid with to bond with the step parent as well as you biologically, give that kid an opportunity to have a voice.
Yeah, really important.
My impression from your saying that is that there's not a time limitation on that. It's not just something you do when they're still in school and at home. This continues even when they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s and beyond. Is that right?
To that point, Greg, I would say, give me a 2-year-old versus a 22-year-old any day of the week. Because I can tell a 22-year-old something and they're going, nah, a 2-year-old, at least I got some control.
I would say another thing to be very careful when you're talking about your child's other bio parent or your ex. Anytime you slam that other bio parent, you scratching that bio parent's face, you're scratching the face of your child. Because that child has a bond with that adult. So you never, ever put that other parent down. Okay. Now,
not in the presence of
the child. Now, if we need to go behind closed doors and vent, okay.
Yeah.
But we would always be supportive of our kids' relationship with their other parent.
That's a critical point and a touchy one. I imagine you all have many stories you've collected in your relationships with others about where they maybe got that wrong or got it right.
Or even where I've blown it and I've had to go back to my kids and apologize.
Yeah, because what's happening is our pain and anger against that other parent is spilling out onto the child. And that's not the child's responsibility. That's where, like Priscilla, like you were saying, being self-aware and being able to regulate or control your own self. I think that's in the Bible somewhere.
That's part of what's involved is your own ongoing self-development. How important has that been for you all in your couple relationship and in your family system?
I think the more that we understand the way that God has put us together, body, soul, and spirit, and the healing and the maturity, the closer we get to Jesus, the closer we get together. I mean, you've probably seen that illustration, God here, husband, wife, and the closer we get to Christ, we grow closer. But I think that at the same time, not all of the children, can we expect that or force that of them? Some of them they do, and that does bring us closer as parent and child. But because of the natural bond, understanding myself emotionally and not being on the defense and understanding what are those emotions that elicit, let's say, bad behavior. If I can regulate that in myself, then I'm going to be better suited to hopefully help the child. And that's where the maturity lies in. There's where we're supposed to be the adults.
Yeah.
As they get older, then okay, that some of that then turns to be on them. And hopefully we've learned, hopefully they've learned from us.
One of the sub parts of this is, and I think when we were first kind of greeting each other, we were talking about the place of forgiveness in the equation that I was struck by and appreciated. You're putting a little bit of focus on the importance of forgiveness and the particular significance it has in the step family experience.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, a lot of marriage events that we've gone to through the years, they'll talk about communication and finances and
Sex
and all that. And then they put forgiveness at the end. When we do our seminars, forgiveness is right up front.
Yeah.
Because we need to have that. And honestly, you guys, I always thought, well, I forgave my ex, so I'm good. Well, no, it's a gift that keeps on giving, right? For every high school graduation we went to, there's an opportunity to forgive. For every wedding that we've attended, for every grandbaby that's been born, because you have these ideals in your first marriage, you're going to go through this together, right? So I felt like I had to grieve, not the loss of my ex-husband, but just that I was grieving the loss of what should have been. Mm-hmm. And for Gil and I to be able to share that so that we were secure enough in our relationship that just because either one of us was grieving that loss of that previous family doesn't mean, oh, I'm leaving you and I'm going back to that family. It's not about the person. It's about what that first marriage represented, which is why God hates divorce, right? Because that's the intact. That's the ultimate. That's how it should be.
Yeah. So I think to add to what you're saying, Brenda, is if forgiveness, for some reason, there is still a root of bitterness because of unresolved hurts, it's never too late to do that. And the sooner that you do that, your disposition most likely is going to be sweeter, more understanding, more graceful. But if you hold that root of bitterness, as the scripture says, it is something that will spring up and defile everything.
Yeah.
And so that is why we put forgiveness up front, especially with remarried seminars, is where are we with that? Because it's always in your face.
It's a process too.
Yeah. And we find that in some perspective with couples who they might be, widowers or widowers. Is it that forgiveness, oddly enough, there are things from their past, even though their former spouse has passed, that they too need to do some forgiveness work. And it's very closely connected to grief. So those things can really be shrouded in different ways. So that therein lies the importance of forgiveness.
Yeah, and as you said, Brenda, an ongoing forgiveness. It's not just a one-time, okay, I forgive you.
Yeah.
It's there's lots of opportunity.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say that in any relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So it'd probably be good to talk a little bit about these resources, don't you think?
Yeah. So Gil and Brenda have created 2 courses for the Online Relationship Academy. And we'll talk about them individually, though there's a lot of overlap in that they're both about step families, right? The first one is Restored and Remarried, Strength for Step Families. Can you tell us a little bit about that course and also the background of the whole Restored Remarried concept?
Well, the concept of Restored and Remarried, it actually kind of got born out of the book of Nehemiah, chapter 4, and about down to about verses 4, 5, 6. And I was reading, and this was really early on in our marriage, and I was kind of in a devotional time, and so much is going on. It's like, oh God, help me. I mean, literally, what is going on? I've never done this before. I don't have any resources, la, la, la. And I was in my devotional day one day, and I was in the book of Nehemiah, and there I came upon that Nehemiah went back to the city. He purveyed the city and kind of went, God had called him to rebuild the city, and he kind of went around, looked at his building material. And his building material was busted, broken, charred, cracked, rocks and timber. And the Lord tapped me on the shoulder and said, that's what you're going to do with your broken, cracked, busted, burned up story. You're going to rebuild the wall to protect your family, not be a division. And therein lied the kind of issue. So I asked Brenda for if she knew of any little building block story, building block toys that the kids had. And she mentioned that one of the boys had some. So I went upstairs and grabbed them all. And he's looking at me like, what's going on? And therein lied the very beginning of Restored and Remarried, was the restoration of the wall of our home, much like the walls of Jerusalem. And it's kind of an interesting perspective, because where did God build? Has he assigned the builders? He assigned family units to rebuild their wall outside their front door. Each family unit was building together. So that was kind of the impotence of what began the process that has grown into what it has, because it was like, okay, let's get our fingers dirty here. We got to get to work. And that's kind of how it began in my heart, and began to share that with Brenda. And then, as she said earlier, just kind of one thing led to the next, and here we are 20 some odd years later, with having had the opportunity out of our own pain and what our children were learning, to be able to share that with other couples, not just in our local church, but now having had the opportunity to share it literally around the world. I mean, I can't even imagine. I still pinch myself of God giving us the opportunity to do this. Yeah. It's really an honor.
The Restored is it is the foundation of a book and seminars and this course. So
podcasts, yeah, lots of podcasts, YouTube, yeah,
articles,
yeah,
yeah,
blogs, yeah. So the course that we have available on Close Companions is includes our book, and then there's 8 video sessions. For a couple can go through it, or a small group would be great. I can't remember how many small groups have gone through it, but each video is maybe no more than like 8 to 10 mintes. So it kind of tee up the idea of what to talk about.
Each concept,
which goes along with the workbook and the book. And then the couples can talk about it, because what we have found in all the groups we've done is that remarried couples or couples in a step family want a place to talk. So we didn't want to do a whole 1 hour long video, because we wanted the couples to be able to give them enough context. Because, when people share the same kind of pain in the room, you don't need to give them a whole lot to connect. They're pretty good at that.
Yeah, I think it gives them a safe place to share their pain. I know that the small groups that we've led over the years, we give everybody, about each couple about 5 to 10 minutes. That's not a lot, but when you have, 10 or 15 couples in the room, it's a lot. But we give everybody about 5 or 10 minutes to share. And as they go around the room, and there's no really easy way to say this, after everybody has shared their story from 70 different types, all these different variations, there's a lot of blood and guts on the floor.
Yeah.
And pain bonds people. I don't know what it is. But I remember one particular small group we were leading, and everybody was done, and it landed back to Brenda and I. I mean, I am overwhelmed with the emotion in the room. I'm kind of going, Lord, what do I say? And it was kind of like, The only thing that came to my mind is kind of the concept that this is encouragement for families in a step family. And so I says, how are you, any of you, after sharing all of that, encouraged? And they went, yeah, we are encouraged. I was like, why? And they said, because we're not alone.
Yes.
We have other people that we don't feel, like outcasts, and the shame came down and there was an affinity. And therein lies the beauty of the small group is maybe in an 8 or 10 minutes of Brenda and I kind of, flapping our jaw and laying out an idea. And then here, you guys take it from there. And it really just kind of goes from there. It's a really a neat opportunity.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that is so deeply, deeply true, because of the impact of shame and the power of community that transforms grief into fresh new life. It's really an amazing thing to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our experience with these courses that are in the Close Companions Online Relationship Academy is that they are so flexible, because they can be used by groups, they can be used by couples, they can also be used by individuals.
Yes.
As we know, if one person changes, the system changes. And so the idea that people can take these courses 24/7, their time, their place, whenever it's convenient, and they can get some of these tools that can then impact their relationship. Your second course is one, Gil, that you have really created, though I know for a fact, not without Brenda's help, with a camera here and there, but it's called Unsung Heroes, Encouragement for Dads in Step Families. Can you tell us a little bit about that program?
Yeah, it's a delight to share about that, Priscilla, because that really came out of talking to men around the country for the last 10 or 15 years of saying, yeah, there's all this stuff out there for the women, God bless them, stepmoms, because there's that natural chip in their DNA of nurturing and whatnot, but there's nothing out there for us guys. And I just kept hearing that over and over again, and then realizing that there were some things that the wives, unfortunately, as wise as you are, didn't really understand what was the experience that a guy was going through with all of this step family stuff. So again, utilizing the different concepts about, you're not my dad, reverse betrayal, a rock and a hard place. These were all different things that I talked about, but I really kind of am speaking to the men, not with the blue screen behind me, but I literally went out on scene, hiking, shooting guns, different places that golf courses, just things that guys could relate to, and just kind of lay it out.
And an axe.
A few axes. But the idea is just to kind of lay out an idea. There's in the program, there's a little kind of bullet points and summary things for guys to think about. Again, something that's good for the guys to sit with, but I also encourage a lot of the ladies. Hey, if you really want to understand what's going on with your guy, maybe you should take this in as well, because there's some things that he may not know how to put into words. And so I've tried to give language to the guys to be able to talk to their wives and encourage one another. So far as a bunch of stepdads getting together, that probably isn't going to happen. But a guy will sit down and watch a video for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, because most of the videos, I think the longest one might be 15, but it's all kind of really bullet point. I lay it out. Here's the issue. Here's what I kind of got from my mentors and what I call my panel. And here's some ideas on a solution. So here's the problem. Here's some ideas. Here's some solution. Really just bullet point. And then they can apply it however they might do. But it was a lot of fun, because Brenda was indeed the producer, the cameraman. We had a really good time, because we went out and about all over the Northwest shooting the video.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's really fun. Well, both of these courses are just packed with tips and ideas and solutions and things to give people to think about. So thank you all so much for providing that resource.
Good.
Well, we're glad to be a part part of your team here. You have some incredible resources on there too that I think many blended family couples, it's about marriage, which is you can never get enough of that stuff.
So we like to say marriage is marriage, but remarriage has some different wrinkles. But maybe you could just give us a couple of bullet points on close companions a little bit too, for a lot of the viewers that, may come in for a perspective. Who are these guys?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, Close Companions has several principles that are they run through everything we do, every program, every resource, every event. And the first one is ongoing growth as individuals and growth as a couple. I'm really aware that we are only as, our relationship is only as strong as the individuals that make it up, right? And so, Greg and I are always constantly growing. In fact, we're individually learning Spanish now, which just is so much fun. But the concept of ongoing relationship growth is foundational.
And I think connected to that, just so you touch more, a lot of couples think that the only time you open up and talk about your relationship or deal with it is if you have a problem. So you talk about relationship education, and the conclusion quickly jumps over to, oh, I don't need any counseling. Our marriage is just fine. And what we spend a good bit of time talking about is to open up the window of imagination for couples to realize if you love something, you want to nurture it. You want to spend time with it. You want to devote so that it's not just problem solving or repair work, but it's really making something that's extraordinarily important to you better and better all the time. And with that comes a sense of adventure and curiosity, a desire to keep learning and being teachable, to appreciate and explore the ongoing mystery of this other person in the family system. Sometimes that mystery is just beguiling, and other times it's
maddening.
It's mad, but to
Be
actually
careful.
You're getting out on thin ice there, Greg. Come on back.
It really is a way of celebrating the fact that life's a moving target, love's a moving target, and we're on a journey together, and we want to make it an adventure to as long as we both shall live. So anyway, that's an important part of that.
It is. And a couple of other points would simply be the concept of being intentional and proactive about your relationship, the fact that you are the expert on your relationship. There aren't books out there that are going to transform your relationship. That can only happen within the relationship. Identifying strengths and building on the strengths, as opposed to waiting until you have problems and issues that you have to deal with. So that's a little bit about close companions. So thanks for asking about that. And that's, those concepts also obviously translate into step families as well. Because like you said, marriage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Greg, I just want to bounce off what you said. And this is something that we beat this drum all the time. The best time to invest in your marriage is when things are going well. Which is counterintuitive. I mean, because it's like you think, oh, I'm having a problem, I need to go get help. No, when you're in a good place, you're open, like you said, to open-minded. You're teachable. But if you're in a bad place, you're going to be closed and protective, and it's not going to be, it's better than nothing. But I'm always telling couples, if you're in a good spot, come to our seminar. That's the time to do it. Yeah. So I totally, that's really resonate with that.
That's really great.
Excellent.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you all, and I feel inspired.
Yes.
By what you all shared. Hardly inspired. Again, the irony in that is inspired by the kind of renewed sense that this isn't some unreachable mountain that only experts can find. It's starting right where you are and knowing that you can take next steps, that you can be proactive, that you can face the realities of your particular relationship and your particular family system and go from there, picking up on wisdom and trying it out for size with a forgiving heart as well as a teachable heart, and embrace the miracle of life and love.
And that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Not
When you
alone.
said the aspect of,
Yeah.
yeah. I think, Greg, with one thing that you said, I'll try to make this as short as I can. In Unsung Heroes, the very last session talks about summiting the mountain. And the mountain really is your family system, being able to really finally achieve, like, there's a lot of valleys, but there are the mountaintops. And I tell a quick story of about a hiking expedition that a buddy of mine and me did in Yosemite National Park years ago. And we kept on getting closer to what we thought was the top of the trail. And my buddy is a poet, he's a composer and all that. And he kind of had this little sing-song thing where he would come around another bend and thinking we were going to be at the top, and he'd go, "Oh, the mountain, she's a cheat." Because it was like, no, we got another 1,000. And so many times, as I say in this thing with regards to Unsung Heroes, you don't know how close you are. Don't stop. Always forward. Even if it's slow progress, don't give up. Keep moving forward. The mountain, she may be a cheat, but if you stop, you may not realize how close you were to achieving what was the call on you as a husband, a father, a dad, and just being a human being.
Oh, that's great.
Excellent. Wow.
That's great.
Great way to close this conversation, guys. This has just been so rich. Thank you so much. We look forward to sharing this with others so that they can benefit from these experiences and all this wisdom right here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Big honor.